Okay, already we could say a good Erev Shabbos, everyone, as we learn this special segment known as For the Shabbos Table, which has been made possible by a grant from the Rubin family, who is sponsoring the shir with the request that they should be Zachor to a healthy Ben Zachor, and also they should have Hatzlach and Ruchnius and Gashmias. And special welcome to Philippe, who is joining us from Eretz Yisrael at 3:45 in the morning. It's good to have you. So,
thank you, Rabbi.
This is a special for the Shabbos table about Parshas Zachor, and we know that Parshas Zachor, the minig is to give the haftarah to the Rav, and as a Rav who's reading this haftarah for over 40 years, I always get the chills when I read this haftarah. Because here you have one of the greatest people in the history of mankind. Shaul HaMelech was one of the greatest people in the history of mankind. He is referred uniquely. No one else is given this title as the Bechir Hashem. Okay, Yaakov is known as the Bechir Sheba'avos, but he was known as the Bechir Hashem, the chosen one of Hashem. It says, Mishich Mayu Lamala, from his shoulder and above. He was greater than all men. And Hashem gives him a mission through the Navi to kill Amalek, and he tells him clearly, Berachel bitka aktana, clearly, Lo yisachma lalav, have no mercy, Lo yisachma aleim, and kill me Adam Sharad Behema, kill all the animals. Shaul goes with 210,000 people and valiantly eradicates Amalek. I mean, you think it's easy to eradicate? They're trying to do that to the Gaza Strip. They have no success after who knows how long of a time. Shaul goes and he's Matzliach. And the Navi comes, but he spares the king, Agag, and he spares the choicest of animals. And the chilling part of this is that Shaul is so sure that he did Mahadrin min Mahadrin, that he really did Hashem's bidding, that when he meets the Navi, he says, Baruch Atal Hashem, Hakimaisi es Dvar Hashem, I did it. It was a 100% success. It was a tremendous venture. What does the Navi tell them? The Navi tells him, you should know, Vayim oscham mimelech. Hashem is disgusted in you to rule anymore. And he tells him, you think Hashem wants karbanos? Hashem wants you should listen to him. Why did you do the opposite? Hashem said not to have mercy, and you had mercy. And after that, it says that Shmuel never saw Shaul again until Shmuel died. Never saw him again. Never set his eyes on him again. Now, before we wrap our heads around this, as I said, as a rabbi, what's so chilling to me is that the Yetzer Hara so convinced Shaul that he had no clue that he did anything wrong. He had no doubts. Sometimes a rabbi it's a sticky situation, it's a dilemma. He has to choose between a rock and a hard place. Here Shaul came back, with a smile on his face. I did it. That's the power of the Yetzer Hara. And we have to know that the bigger the person is, the bigger the Yetzer Hara is. Kol hagadol mechaveroi, Yetzer gadol himenu. The biggest Yetzer Hara is when the Yetzer Hara tells you it's a mitzvah to do it. A mitzvah to do it. Shaul saved the animals. He said, of course, I'm not supposed to keep animals for ourselves. Chas v'shalom, we weren't keeping it for ourselves. We're keeping it to bring korbanos to Hashem. That's different. Hashem said we shouldn't keep it booty. We're not keeping booty. It's with korbanos. Korbanos. It's to bring to Hashem that we were successful in a campaign. 210,000 people. We didn't lose a man. So we're bringing korbanos. The biggest Yetzer Hara is when he convinces you that you're thinking you're doing a mitzvah. That's the big. I've seen in my career that the most deadliest Yetzer Hara is when people think with righteous indignation. They could embarrass someone publicly and talk lashon hara about him and make machlokes if they think he's talking in shul. Everything is permitted. Except murder. That I didn't have. They didn't kill him. But they could fight with him, embarrass him, talk about it at the Shabbos table, trample all kinds of sins. Because it's righteous. Comes to, there's a medrash that when Vaye'ovek Ishimo Yad Aloytza Shacher, that the Malach fought with Yaakov, and we know that Malach was Samuel. Samuel's the poison of God. So there's one opinion that the Malach appeared like a Talmud Chacham. And Farshim explained that Malach appeared like a Talmud Chacham because a lot of times Yetzer Hara comes and says it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to be involved. That's the hardest Yetzer Hara. Rabbi Dr. Tursky, he says a great word. In the Yirotzen that we say before davening, before Pesach Zimrei, at the end of Birchas HaShachar, it's really very strange. We have two requests to deal with the Yetzer Hara. If you look at it, it's really interesting. First we say, V'al tashlet banu Yetzer Hara, that the Yetzer Hara shouldn't rule over us, right? Shouldn't get the better of us, shouldn't control us. That's what it says about Rishon. Rishon, Bereshus Libam. Tzadikim Libam Bereshusam. So the Rishon are controlled by their hearts. That's what Haman Belibai. Haman was controlled by his heart. Tzadikim, they control their hearts. So we ask, Val Tashlet Banu Yetzer Hara, let us not be dominated by our Yetzer Hara. But then we ask a second request. V'chayfes yitzreinu li'ishtabed lach. And subdue our Yetzer Hara to be subjugated to you. Now, that sounds to be the same request. That the Yetzer Hara should not, control us. So, Rabbi Tursky says a great pshat. Al Tasha Bani Yetzer Hara means that our Yetzer Tov should win over the Yetzer Hara. But the Chayfes Yitzreinu L'Shtabed Lach, We ask Hashem, you allowed the Yetzer Hara to try to get us to sin. But he's not allowed to convince us that it's a mitzvah. That wasn't in his job description. So v'chayfes yitzreinu l'ishtabelach, subdue the Yetzer Hara. He wants to tell us not to get up for davening. He wants to tell us to look at something that we're not supposed to. Okay. But not to tell us to look at something that we're not supposed to as a mitzvah. That's not in his that's not in his charter. We ask Hashem, please, because this, when the Yetzer Hara gets us that it's a mitzvah, that's a bitter amaisa. Now, why did Shaul spear Agag? That's a mystery that is not spoken about much. I mean, the Rebbeinu Shalom said, eradicate the Amalekis. Why did he spear Agag? Especially that we know that led to the whole threat of Purim, the whole horror of Purim. Because it says that Agag, while he was incarcerated, a woman slept with him and had the ancestor of Haman. So it was the spearing of Agag that made the whole episode of Haman possible. Why did he spear Agag? So there's a Mishbetzes Zov that says that Agag's mother was not an Amaleki. And that Shaul made a mistake and went after the mother. And he went after the mother, and therefore, wow, I just lost the whole Zoom? Wow, I never saw that before. What's going on over here? Oh, there they are. I don't know what happened to everybody for a second. Okay. So, it's very interesting that that's a Mishbetzes Zov. That Agag's mother was not an Amaleki. And that's why Shaul speared him. It's very interesting because there's a famous Maisa. It's not directly related, but it's a famous Maisa. There was a Meshulach, a Lubavitcher Meshulach in Vancouver, who knew a lawyer by the name of Brian Crenshaw. Now, Mrs. Crenshaw was a guy. Brian asked the Meshulach, does the Lubavitcher Rebbe give brachas to a guy? So he said yes. So Brian said, my wife is sick, lo yaleinu. Could you get a bracha from the Rebbe? So this Meshulach knew that if it's a guy, you get the father's name. So he asked for the father's name, and he sent the woman, daughter of the father, in a letter to the Rebbe. Rabbi Klein, one of the attendants of the Rebbe, sent back, the Rebbe wants to know the mother's name. So he writes back, but it's a guy. So Rabbi Klein said, I told that to the Rebbe, but the Rebbe wants the mother's name. So he asks and finds out that the mother's name is Anna. So, but, he told Brian that it's strange. So Brian told his wife. So his wife's mother was still alive, a very old woman in France. So she called her mother and said, Ma, do you have any other name besides Anna? And there was dead silence on the phone. So she said, why are you asking me that? So she told her the story with the Rebbe, the father's name, the mother's name. She said, he must be a very holy man. I wasn't planning to tell you this. I was planning to take this to the grave. But as a little girl in Paris, my parents hid me from the Nazis. And I was hidden in a monastery. And I grew up in a monastery. And I came out of the monastery, I was a Christian. And I married a French Catholic. And I had you. But my name is really Hannah. She really was a Jewish girl. Somehow the Rebbe saw, somehow the Rebbe had koiches. He saw and he wanted the mother's name, not the father's name. By the way, I have a minig that I got from my Kabbalah, from my rebellion, that when they asked me to be mispal for a guy, so I daven that the guy should have hatzlacha if this guy is not going to be a source of trouble for a yid. That's what I add to my tefillah. Now, we know that one of the critiques that are given to Shaul is that Shaul said in admission to Shmuel, when Shmuel said, how could you do this? L'shmaya mizevach toiv, it's more important to listen than to bring sacrifices. So he said, Ki yareisi es ha'am ve'eshma b'kolam. I was afraid of the people and I listened to them. Oh, what a lesson to the rabbinate. The rabbinate doesn't make decisions by polls. He doesn't poll his constituents and make a decision. Many years ago, it used to be in that good show, Staten Island, that after every 5 years, they would vote me in again. And one time I told them, you know, this doesn't work for me. Because if I get voted in, then I have to be worried about what you think when I make decisions. I said, listen, I want tenure. You could vote me out if you don't want to give tenure. But I'm not doing this anymore. I don't think it's right. Because then when I make decisions, I'm always going to be looking, well, will they vote me in or not? And they made a decision to vote me in anyway. And I was there for 38 years until my wife got very sick. And the demographics changed and all kinds of things. But we also know that the Amloye said that it was a very dangerous thing to spare the animals because the Amalekim knew Kishuf and they knew how to change themselves into animals. So some of those animals that were spared were Amalekim. They bring it down also. In the Yamsuf it says Sus v'rachvay rama v'yayim. Why does it say Sus first? It should say Rachvay v'susay. So some say that a lot of Egyptians described themselves as the horses, and they also died. The Chassam Sofer explains Shaul's motivation. You have to understand, Shaul was such a great man. We can't imagine that he made such a simple mistake. The Chassam Sofer learns that Shaul made a decision that we have precedent. That because we're worried about what might happen, we're allowed to be mevatel the Torah b'sheva al tasa. What's an example? An example is shofar. If the first day of Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, we don't blow the shofar. What do you mean? It's a mitzvah deraisa to blow the shofar. There's no mitzvah deraisa to blow shofar. You have to blow shofar. We don't blow shofar. Why? Because maybe somebody doesn't know how to blow, and he'll take the shofar and carry it 4 amos in the Rosh Hashanah and be machal Shabbos. But you're mevatel a mitzvah deraisa of shofar? especially shofar, which saves Klal Yisrael, Kras Satan. It confuses the Satan. Yeah. You're allowed to be Mavatal Mitzvah D'Oraisa B'Sheva Al Tasa, by passing. Shaul was afraid that to be so bloodthirsty would rub off badly on Klal Yisrael. So B'Sheva Al Tasa, he didn't kill. He felt that would be an important lesson for Klal Yisrael. However, the Navi said, what? That's a cheshbon? Hashem told you lo yisachmo. You know better than Hashem? Some Sefer says this. Shaul was guilty of misplaced and mistaken mercy. Misplaced mercy. Misplaced mercy is a big problem. Many parents learn it the hard way. One who spears the rod, whether literally or figuratively, hates their child. Today we have a generation where people are afraid to tell their children anything. Yeah, you don't educate your child firmly where it needs to be. Oh, you're hurting the child. A parent that gives a child open access to the internet? How foolish could you be? Even good goyim know that that's absolutely a no-no. And a child that reaches puberty has a healthy curiosity. You leave a child with unsupervised internet, how long is it that will it take for them to see things that weren't available even in Stein B'Mayra? That's a mistaken mercy. Reb Elimelech Biederman says that one of the great messages of Parshas Zachor is that it says, "Vayizanei b'cho kol hanecha sholim acharecha." You know why we execute Amalek? Timche Zachor Amalek. They cut down all the stragglers. You were weary and fatigued. Rashi says, what does it mean, stragglers? Rashi says those that were thrown out of the Ananei HaKavod. There were sinners that were expelled by the cloud of glory. They were straggling them back, and Amalek got to them. To those that had no hope. He says the koyach of Amalek is when a Jew doesn't have hope, that's the worst place to be. It's the worst place to be. That's why it's so important for a doctor to give a patient hope. Today there's I wouldn't say foolish, that would be too light. Today there's a criminality in doctors that feel they have to be completely truthful with their patients. Ramosha called that ritzicha. You have to know that we say refuas hanefesh or refuas haguf. There won't be a refuah to the body unless there's first a refuah to the soul. A person that doesn't have hope is a goner. I've been in chemo labs. Some patients die very quickly, and others hold on for years. The ones that consider themselves already walking dead don't survive for too long. Amalek's koyach was to take away hope. Timche Zachor Amalek. There's nothing as dangerous. The Baal Shem Tov says that the Yetzer Hara's greatest weapon is atzvus, is sadness, is lack of hope. Another koyach of Amalek is to make us doubt. You know, a Yid is supposed to have bitachon, confidence, be sure. The gematria of Amalek, which is an easy gematria, 240, is the same gematria as Suffolk. Amalek attacked after we said, Ayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu imoyin, is Hashem with us or not? We still weren't sure. After all, God said we should leave. In the Bris Ben Mitzrayim, He said we should leave Mitzrayim after 400 years. We left after 210. And every time something went wrong, we weren't sure. Hayesh Hashem b'kibbeinu. When there's doubt, that's Amalek. But I want to talk to you about something now, about Parshas Zachor. And again, I want to thank the Rubin family for making this available. If you want to sponsor a share, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. I want to remind you also that Motzoi Shabbos, the Daf Yomi, is at 9. That's zoomdaf.com, rmmw. And during the week it's 8. There'll be special timing Thursday evening next week because of Tanis Esther. I believe that next week, Thursday night, Tanis Esther after Megillah, the shir is going to be at 9:45. That's a special time. But I heard from the Kruller Rebbe. Now I daven Nusach Ashkenaz. So when I daven Ashkenaz here in Lakewood, a lot of times I daven in the Sfard Shul. In Nusach Sfard Shul, I daven a lot in Satmar. So I say it. If you say the Kel Erech HaPayim before Taknun every day, so you say the Nusach, Gedulas Rachamecha V'Chasodecha, your great mercy and kindness, Tisker Hayom, you should remember today, V'chol Yom, and every day, L'zera Yedidecha, for your beloved descendants, your children, right? Banim atem la'Hashem Elokeichem. So the Kruller Rebbe Shlita told me that in what merit do we ask Hashem that He should be Tisker Hayom or V'chol Yom, that Hashem should remember us every day with Gedulos Rachamecha V'Chasodecha? He said it's in the merit of the Sheish Zechiris, the 6 remembrances that a Jew is supposed to have every day. Now, some people say it. It's at the back of Shacharis and most Sidurim. The Sheish Zechiris, but even if you don't say it, you're supposed to remember it. There are 6 things that we're supposed to perpetually remember. The first one is that we're supposed to remember Zachor Yetzias Mitzrayim, and that's number 1. Second one is we're supposed to remember Ma'amad Har Sinai, when Hashem gave us the Torah. So Zachor Yetzias Mitzrayim is remembering that Hashem chose us to be His people. V'lakachti eschem lilah. Ma'amad Har Sinai is that Torah is from Shemayim. The Torah is divine. The third is to remember Amalek, to destroy Amalek, with all the lessons that we learned tonight. The fourth is the most interesting memory. We're supposed to remember Asher Hiktzafta, how we angered Hashem b'derech, on the road b'tzeitzchem and Mitzrayim, how we angered Hashem in the Midbar. That's a lot of memories. That's a memory of the Das Kairach, to remember the poison of Machlokes. It's to remember the Meraglim, the poison of the spies. It's to remember the Egel Azov, how we could mamish go from the highest heights to the lowest heights in such a quick amount of time. It's a memory that we could be a Torah community and still fail. This was more than Lakewood. It was all of Klal Yisrael was learning Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu. It was a generation of Dordeh, a generation of Kaila, and yet we failed miserably. We had to all die in the desert. Never be too confident. The fifth of, remember what Hashem did to Miriam, a reminder never to speak Lashon Hara, even over family. And the sixth is to remember Shabbos. Belief that the world wasn't always here, it didn't come from a big bang, it didn't evolve, but it was created by God. On Parshas Zachor, we should take the opportunity to remember the 6 Zechiras. And to know when we have these 6 Zechiras, then we could say with real feeling that Gedulas Rachamecha V'Chasadecha Tiskra Yom V'Chol Yom L'Zer Yedidecha, like the Kula Rebbe said. We want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm not sure if Eddie will be here Motzei Shabbos already. I think he's going back, so we want to wish Eddie Chazan Tzeitzchem L'Shalom back to Eretz Yisrael. And thank you very much for joining us, everyone, and have a wonderful evening and a good Shabbos.